Why stick with David Weiss as a special prosecutor? Why not appoint somebody else?
So David Weiss has been running this prosecution from the beginning, and he's been, in all but name, a special counsel all along, because he was appointed by Donald Trump, and he was held over specifically because of this investigation in order to avoid any appearance that President Biden or the DOJ was putting somebody favorable to the Biden administration in charge of it. And it would not make sense to redo from start. In fact, if they got rid of David Weiss, I'm quite confident that the same people who are complaining about him right now would be complaining they got rid of him because they would find fault with whoever replaced him.
Jesse, the appointment comes as the plea deal for the tax evasion and the lying on the gun application. That whole thing fell apart. Many Republicans criticized that as a sweetheart deal. Were they right?
No, let me tell you, when that deal fell apart, it was a bit of a surprise because, A, I will tell you, I thought Hunter Biden, an argument could be made, he was treating actually more harshly than people. First of all, you could say on one hand, not everybody's brought on those misdemeanor tax charges. And the gun charge, while, again, very serious, usually that's tied to something where somebody is implicated in an even more serious crime. So it could be argued that he wasn't treated lightly. Now, having said that, we thought that this deal was going to blow up, but they were going to come, there was going to be a meeting of the minds, that they were going to work together. We have just learned that apparently they are further apart on agreement than they were before, which is why I'm not surprised that we are now seeing an escalation into this investigation and more pressure being put on Hunter Biden's camp to maybe try to work for a plea deal moving forward.
All right, Chris, the special counsel is looking into Hunter Biden, but Republicans are hoping and unearth that in fact, that he unearths wrongdoing by his father, Joe Biden. I mean, it's President Biden who is in their crosshairs, right?
Right, and they don't need a specific finding. We saw this week with the disgorging of bank documents from the House Oversight Committee. They just want to keep the story going. From a political standpoint, for Republicans, it is sufficient and probably superior in many ways to not have the matter resolved, right? As long as things are churning and weird and there is evidence of corruption, even if that corruption does not touch Joe Biden personally, that's the narrative that Republicans want. Because remember, their story for the 2024 election is they're both crooks, but one of them, Trump and Biden are both crooks. Their families are both crooked, fine, but one of them will bring your gas prices down and one of them will make life better and it'll go back to the way it used to be.
Chris, Republicans have insisted that Hunter Biden cashed in on his family name and that Joe Biden, while he was vice president, knew about it and supported that and may have even profited off of it. So far, Republicans have come up with no hard evidence to support allegations that Joe Biden did anything wrong or profited in any way. Might a special counsel investigating Hunter have any luck finding that evidence if it exists?
Well, if it exists, sure. I mean, the wider ranging, we know the story of special prosecutors and special counsels.
They can go anywhere.
That's right. They start pulling the thread on the sweater and the whole thing can unravel. This is the story of almost every presidential administration since Nixon. This is something that we've seen before. But I will say there's a lot of political utility in this for Democrats. They have had a consistent problem, which is that Joe Biden has not had a way to deal with his vexatious and very often selfish son. Hunter Biden's continued presence in the public eye, attending state dinners, being in the White House all the time. This is very bad for Democrats, and for a long time they weren't able to address it. Having this special investigation hanging over Hunter Biden gives campaign staffers and White House staffers a tool to use with Biden to say, look, as long as this is going on and these serious stakes are here, we've got to keep Hunter on ice, and he can't be standing out on the Truman balcony gripping and grinning with you.
Yeah, there have long been reports from Democrats off the record talking about how uncomfortable they were about those optics. Jesse, at the very least, is President Biden guilty of poor judgment here? He knew his son was getting jobs for which he really had zero qualifications. Should he, the first time Hunter Biden called him on speakerphone and said, Dad, I'm at dinner with some friends from Burisma, should he have not said, don't you ever do that to me again?
You would hope so, or say, I'll call you back later. And then it was also questionable, as we heard from Devin Archer's testimony, that he apparently attended these dinners with Hunter Biden's business associates. And even if they talked about the weather, even if they talked about dessert, he shouldn't have been there from a political point of view, from an ethical point of view. One thing I just want to add about the David Weiss conversation is at the end of this, he has to prepare a report for Merrick Garland. And Merrick Garland indicated that he's going to do everything in his power to make that public. So whatever anybody questions people had about, well, there's a cover-up of Hunter Biden,
right,
we are now going to understand whether or not he's going to be prosecuted. And if he isn't, why he's not being prosecuted.
Mitch, you're the former prosecutor here. Joe Biden also claimed in 2020 that his son never made any money in China, when in fact he did. That's not illegal to do that, is it? I mean,
so if you say something that you know is false to a federal investigator, that can be a crime. In fact, that's a crime that former President Trump
he
is
said
being...
this on a debate stage.
Right.
So.
Saying it on a debate stage is just part of politics. He shouldn't have said something if he knew it wasn't true. We don't know what he knew and didn't know
or what
about,
Hunter was telling him.
My guess is that Hunter Biden, in the throes of being a rabid drug addict, probably was pretty good at lying to people.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.